Signs for career reinvention. Okay, so I'm going to run through a few typical signs and symptoms I see when I'm working with people, when I know that the sort of balance of them feeling happy and unhappy at work has tipped. And these are signs that I'd really like you to watch out for. You may have your own sort of signs and symptoms that really you're unhappy where you are, and it really is time for a career reinvention. Now, that could be just finding a new job where you are currently, seeking a promotion, or it could be a fundamental shift and transformation. And I've recently worked with a lady who was feeling just completely burnt out, and because of this burnout she was feeling stressed not only in her career but her private life. And when we sat down and looked at her life holistically and what was important to her, she realised that she wasn't fulfilling her caring and nurturing side. And when we really dig deep, and when I really pulled out from her what it was she wanted to progress with adopting a child with her husband. Now, that was a fundamental shift in how she was living her life, but we managed it. We worked through it together, and stepwise she managed to move along the adoption path, but also fulfill her ambition for her own career independence and carry on doing writing children's books. So it was amazing to see how she'd gone from feeling bored, frustrated, fed up, a hamster on a wheel, to really taking just some brave steps bit by bit, through a process to reinvent her career, and actually not just her career but her whole life, because very often it's difficult to put our career in one box and our life in another box. Sometimes they sort of cross over into each other. So here's a few tips, here's a few signs around things I've noticed in my career and what I've noticed with clients that shows it's time for a career switch, a career reinvention. Okay, so in a previous video, I've talked about what you're tolerating at work. If you're tolerating more at work than you're getting from your work, it feels like a sort of imbalanced set of scales. So again, have a look at what you're tolerating. Are you tolerating too much? How do you know if you're tolerating too much? Well, let me give you a few ideas. You may feel numb. You may just feel numb going into work and you can't get out of bed in the morning. You may feel irritated or lethargic or tired for no reason, and that's just a general lack of motivation or interest in what you're doing. And that's fine, we all go through that from time to time. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that maybe there's something either around your health, your well-being, or your career that we need to look at. So feeling irritated, feeling numb, feeling tired, demotivated. Stress. Now, a certain amount of stress is good for us. Stress can help motivate us, but only in short bursts. As human beings, we are not designed, and it is not healthy for us to be under prolonged stress. It's actually really bad for our heart, because we're constantly in that flight mode, and we've got all sorts of hormones, stress hormones flying around the body, which actually harden our arteries and do all sorts of terrible things to our body. So being under a level of stress all the time is not good. Okay, what else is there? I've mentioned not being able to get out of bed in the morning. Your health may be suffering for the reasons I've already mentioned, or just generally that you're not motivated to do the things you wanted to do anymore. Perhaps you're feeling anxious. Perhaps you can feel you've got your thoughts are racing. Perhaps you've had a touch of anxiety in the past and now it's creeping up because you're really thinking about on some deep either on a conscious or a deep subconscious level about how unhappy you are at work, and that's feeding into an anxiety, shortness of breath, rapid heartbeat, things like that. And that's where you really do need to go and see your doctor. But actually stress can sort of appear in many different ways, so it's understanding how that stress shows up for you. I was talking about health and fitness. So if you're less than motivated to go to the gym than you used to, perhaps you've always exercised but it goes to pot when you're feeling a bit stressed or overwhelmed. You're making poor nutrition choices, poor food choices, and this all becomes a sort of a vicious cycle, because you feel maybe demotivated, unhappy at work, so you don't eat as well, you don't exercise, and you go round and around in this loop and nothing gets fixed. It's just good to start somewhere, even if it's, taking a walk, getting some fresh air. That's a really good thing to do. Other signs to look at. Are your relationships suffering? Are you snapping at loved ones? Are you working all the time and that's impacting into your family life or your private life or your hobbies? Have you lost interest in other hobbies outside of health? Are there toxic relationships at work? Is there any bullying going on? Or do you just feel that you're working in a really unhealthy atmosphere? And actually, maybe it isn't that extreme, but it just feels like the kind of environment that doesn't help you thrive. Perhaps the content of your role doesn't really fulfill you anymore. And there are other areas you want to explore, like creativity, variety, working outside. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's really important to sort of work with somebody to identify what those values are. Do you feel like you've got more to offer? Do you feel like, do you know what, I've got so much more to offer and I'm just not getting recognised here? I've certainly been there, and I've usually found that changing my career has been a really good way forward to sort of help me sort of release that potential. So feeling that you have more to offer. Also feeling that you're not really adding value at work. You don't really feel like you're contributing anything. You've kind of got to the level where you've given all you can give, or you need to move on somewhere else to a different kind of organisation, a different kind of environment. Maybe you just feel that you've got nothing left that you can really give the company. Is there a clear, if you are working in an organisation, are there clear structures? Are there clear ways that you can ask for promotions or change your role and evolve your role? Or if you're setting up your own business, have you got that path mapped out for you? Or are you working all the time in your own business and it's time to take stock and think about, do I still want to run this business? Do I want to change how this business looks? And perhaps you've noticed that your earning potential isn't what you would like it to be. That can be another key issue, that you know, we don't feel that we're earning quite what we should. Are you not getting the visibility where you are? Are people not recognising you? Are you not getting the visibility? Is your input just not valued anymore? And what's that about? Is it about the fact that where you are, if you're in an organisation, it's going through a bit of a funny time at the moment, a bit of internal transformation where input isn't required? Or is it that actually I feel a bit like a square peg in a round hole? But also, is it that, you know, you sort of feel a bit impatient, a bit numb? And when you look at your job description, if you're in an organisation, or you look at the kind of work you're doing, do you just feel like you're wearing a pair of shoes that don't fit you anymore? And that's where a bigger sort of analysis, and I work on a 3-step process where we regroup, we reboot, and we sort of reinvent your career to make sure that what you're doing is really the right chapter, the right next chapter in your career, and gets you to doing something that really feels like you. Because I'm a firm believer that whilst we all put on a mask at work, we all have different sides to our personalities, and personality does mean mask, by the way. We do all wear a different mask to a certain extent, but if that's compromising who you are as a person and the values that you want to express at work, then it may well be that career reinvention is for you at this point in time. So I've given you quite a few symptoms and signs that it's time for a career change, time to relook at what you're doing and really move yourself forward using this information into something that really feels as though you're on point, you're on purpose, it's what you love to do. So if you'd like any more information on any of those signs or symptoms, or you're struggling at the moment and you'd like to talk to me on a free consultation, then get in touch. Thanks a lot.